Hi, I'm Kesenya, and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. Today we're doing another one in our series of looking at the moon in conjunction with or together with planets in our natal horoscope. And today we're looking at the conjunction of Venus and the moon in the birth chart. So how do we find out, first of all, if we have moon and Venus together in our birth chart, and therefore whether or not this video is applicable to us? Well, I would suggest that you head over to astro.com, www.astro.com, where they have a wealth of information and the capacity for you to plug in your details and come up with something that looks a little bit like this. This is a birth chart. This is my birth chart, and it's been scribbled over and much loved for many years now. As I've learned astrology, it's been sort of my go-to reference. But you need to go to astro.com, plug in your details, and then you'll get something like this come up, and you will find that down the side here there are a list of the planets and the various symbols, or we call them glyphs, that are associated with the planets. So for example, here would be your moon, and then down a little further is Venus and the glyph that represents Venus. And then you'll need to have a look at your chart here and find whereabouts those glyphs fall in that chart. Now, if they fall together within 10 little degree lines, which are the little lines that run all the way around, there's 360 of them, yes, you'll need to find out if the moon and Venus fall together in the chart within 10 of those little degrees. And if they do, then you will be someone who this video will relate to. You will have moon and the planet Venus conjunction. Now, it's stronger for those of us who have the Moon-Venus conjunction in the same sign, together in the same sign. I should show you how to figure that out, shouldn't I? No assumptions here that people know how astrology works. These are the signs here that go all the way around the chart. And if you have, see, here is my moon. If you have the moon conjunct with, say, the glyph for Venus in this sign together, that will be stronger than if you have the moon, say, here and Venus in the next sign. So look for that. Hopefully that was clear. Look for that in your chart when you plug in your details, and you'll find out whether you have moon and Venus conjunct. So what does the moon represent? This is something we need to cover initially. So our moon, it's representative of our intuition. It's representative of our needs. What we need to feel stable and secure and satisfied in life is represented by the moon and its placement in the chart. It represents nurturance. Now, that does not necessarily always correlate to motherliness. We all have the moon somewhere in the chart, and many of us are not, prone to being motherly. So it doesn't necessarily mean you'll be motherly, but the moon's placement will indicate the capacity for nurturance that you carry, and the way your mother may have nurtured you, and with what qualities she did so. It is also, because of this, the moon is representative of our mother figures. So there's a big correlation to our mother and the maternal lineage. Plus, it's also representative of, if you do have children, how you will be inclined to mother your own children with the moon's placement. It's also, the main thing we know the moon for is its representation of our emotional needs. So our emotional life, how we display our emotions, and what our soul and our heart needs to be emotionally satisfied and fulfilled in life, is what we see by the moon's placement. And the conjunction of a planet with the moon will influence how this expresses, how these things, how emotions express in us, how our relationship with our mother is expressed in our life, and so on. The qualities of the moon will be influenced by the planet that it is with. Now, in this case, we're looking at Venus. Venus being conjunct with the moon. What does Venus represent? Well, Venus correlates to young women, youthful women, women who haven't hit those maternal years yet. So that's the first thing that's the first thing that we see Venus as representing. Venus in ancient mythology, as I'm sure you're all aware, is the goddess of love. And therefore Venus, the planet, correlates to our love relationships as well. Now, she's a bit different to Mars. Mars in mythology was the god of war, and he was aggressive, but there's also a strong sexual desire with the planet Mars. Venus is different to that. It's the feminine version where it's all about connection of the heart, connection of the soul. It's about the sensuality, the touch, the taste, the feel, the smell of being in relationship. So it's not about the desire, it's about the feminine energy of union in a relationship. The care, the kindness, the romance, these sorts of things are summed up in the planet Venus. Now, I just illustrated for you that the sensuality side of things in relationships, but it's also about the five senses. Venus rules the five senses, and so anything that has a sensory nature to it can correlate back to the placement of our Venus. For example, taste, food is ruled by the signs Venus governs. In this case, I'm talking about Taurus. It's connected to the food that we eat. And the pleasures of life, the indulgent sensual pleasures, like this dress is velvet, so it's black, yes, which is governed by a different planet, that color, but the touch and the feel of the fabric is very Venusian because it is very much a sensual feeling. It's connected to touch, obviously. Beautiful vistas, Venus, anything to do with luxuries and material goods. Our going shopping is Venusian. It's about possessions, it's about money, as well as the sensory things of life. So Venus governs quite a bit in the material realm. And Venus as a planet, it rules an earth sign. And earth signs are correlated to our material outer world life here on planet Earth, the tangible, the perceivable. And so Venus governs the earth sign of Taurus, and it also governs the Libran sign, which is an air sign. And that's very mental. It's about logic. It's about mental processing as an air sign. But it's also about relationships from an intellectual point of view, whereas Taurus is the more tangible, earthly, sensual point of view in relationships. So Venus is a fascinating planet. It is in Vedic astrology the lesser benefic. Jupiter is the major benefic and Venus is the lesser benefic, but still a benefic nonetheless. So it carries a lot of substance for the good things to come to us in our lives and to evolve for us in our lives. So let's take a look at what it means to have these two very feminine planets together. And they are the only two feminine planets in the solar system, although I'm reading a wonderful book by Liz Green at the moment that does talk about Neptune probably being more correlated to the feminine energy than the masculine, and ancient feminine goddesses of the ocean rather than the masculine Neptune. But yes, that's a topic for another time. But these two, the Moon and Venus, are the feminine energies in the solar system. There are some asteroids and some dwarf planets that carry feminine qualities to them, but as for the major ones, it's these two, the Moon and Venus. So, excuse me, what does it mean when these two feminine energies get together? Well, firstly, it's going to create in you, in your self-expression, a very loving and caring, gentle, kind, and affectionate type of personality and type of persona that you will give out to the world. It's quite a giving energy. It's also very receptive. It's a combination of both in this regard, because it gives kindness, it gives care, it gives affection, and it also likes to receive. Feminine energy is the receptive, to be taken care of, to be loved, to receive support, So it's a combination of both, the giving of kindness and care in the personality, as well as needing to receive as well. It's a signature that tells us that you will love to be in love. I mean, who doesn't love to be in love? It is a heady, wonderful experience. But for Venus moon people, it's going to be a really strong propulsion in their life. They're going to really seek it out. They're going to really want to be in love because it is satisfying. Remember that the moon rules what satisfies us and our needs. And Venus rules love, goddess of love. So we are going to desire relationship. It's going to be very important for these people to be in in love, in order for them to feel fulfilled and happy, that their needs are being met, that they're being satisfied in life. Now, that doesn't mean that they're always going to be in relationship, but they will have this strong, like I said, propulsion and desire to be in connection with others. So we'll get to remedies at the end of this video, but I will just say here that if you are a Venus moon person and you are not in a loving relationship, then it is healthy for you to connect with other women. Remember, both of these signatures are feminine energies. Connect with other women to support you through times of singleness when you feel like that relationship connection is not being fulfilled in your life. So, fill up that void, if you like, with friends and supporters until such time as a relationship does enter into your life. Now, this moon Venus signature can actually bring you popularity in life, and this is because you will have a very easygoing nature. Very, like I said, very kind, very loving, very giving of those sorts of things to other people. But there's an ease and a gentleness and a flow that is present in you that will attract other people to you and make you quite popular. And you'll be able to make friends with both sexes easily. You'll be friends with women. These two feminine energies together, friends with women, will be very strong and supportive and helpful in your life, but equally you will attract men as well and be able to have really valuable friendships with men if you're a woman as well. If you're a man, again, you will have men and women as friends. Both sexes will be drawn to your ease, your relaxed, calm demeanor. You will be quite involved with how you look if you have this placement. Venus is, like I said, the sensual energy. So it's also about appearance, the visual stimulation, the visual aesthetics. So you'll be drawn to beautiful things and to be concerned with how you appear yourself. Venus rules the sign of Libra, which is very much about looking refined and giving a refined image. And Taurus is that much more natural, earthy beauty. So both these signs correlate to being beautiful, and with Venus representing both natural beauty and the refined, sophisticated beauty of Libra, when it's with the moon, it's something we need to express in ourselves. So we will need to express our beauty in either refined ways or very natural ways. We will probably have a love for clothes and a love for shoes and a love for jewelry. We've got a real eye for fashion, actually. And this is quite strong with Venus moon people. You almost actually can correlate this to if you have the moon in one of the Venus ruled signs as well, in Taurus or in Libra. You can, this can play out as well. I mean, I don't have moon Venus conjunction, but I've got moon in Libra. So you should see the size of my wardrobe. It's quite shameful, actually. But I love beautiful clothes and I love, my shoes and da 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 da. So you can find that some of these energies will manifest for you if you have this in the moon in a Venus ruled sign. Now, it's going to be representative, the moon conjunct with Venus, of a generally good relationship with the mother, where the relationship was, one of ease and there was one of just general care and kindness towards one another. So this is a good placement for a relationship with the mother. In fact, your childhood is likely to, and your past lives as well, because the moon's connected to past lives. Your childhood experience or your past life experience would have been more Venusian, so quite a beautiful childhood, quite a beautiful past lives, or at least you would have been in surroundings that were beautiful, even if there were some energies of hardship and difficulty in other realms of life, other relationships and so on, but you would have been in an environment of beauty or an environment of maybe even luxury as well. And you would have had past lives and childhoods that were very much, where it bubbled up in you this love of beauty, this love of beautiful surroundings and your love of pleasure and a desire for sensual happiness. Like as a child, you might have, really enjoyed like running your hand over velvet, and that really thrilled you. And other people are like, what are you doing? And I just love the touch of the velvet. So you would have been drawn to these sensual experiences. One of my sons wasn't interested in a teddy bear when he was little. He had a blanket and it had a satin edge on it, and he would just lie there in his bed for hours just rubbing the satin edge on his blanket until it wore off. That sensual need for sensuality, need for touch. Now, the other things that we need to keep in mind with regard to childhood and the maternal lineage and connection here is that your mother would have displayed maternal qualities that were quite Venusian. So she would have been quite beautiful. She would have enjoyed pleasure, and she would have brought pleasure, generally speaking, unless there are other difficult aspects going on in your chart. She would have brought pleasure to your life, and she would have brought the energy of sensual beauty into your world. So she probably delighted in cooking lovely meals for everybody, or at least having lovely meals on the table. Whether she cooked them or not is probably a bit beside the point, but eating lovely food, having a beautifully decorated home. She would have been quite kind and affectionate as well. And indeed, if you're a woman, this is how you will tend to mother, in a very Venusian, caring, kind, and beauty-loving way as well. There's a high level of compassion for other people when we have this placement in our chart. Means we genuinely are concerned with others and how they're doing, and there's, like I said, a lot of beautiful compassion. In fact, we get a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment, because remember, the moon is the fulfillment and the needs that we have in order to feel happy and satiated in life. And you will get a lot of satisfaction out of caring and loving other people, looking after other people, making them feel comfortable, making them feel at home. And so caring for others and having a beautiful home, these are some of the elements that will bring you a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment in your life. And you are likely to actually have a very beautiful home as well, because the moon rules the home. And the bricks and mortar home that you actually live in, your place of residence, whether it's rented or owned, it doesn't matter. It's where you reside is the moon. And Venus is to make things beautiful and to appreciate beauty. So your home is likely to be quite beautiful. You will make it beautiful if it's not originally that way. You'll, coat of paint or beautiful curtains, a lovely couch and some cushions or whatever. You will be very good at making your home feel lovely, feel inviting, feel quite aesthetically pleasing. You will also be a very devoted person and quite willing to make an effort in life to achieve what you want. So it's not a placement that's actually about ambition, being driven to be top of the tree and actually, head CEO or anything. It's not a placement that indicates that. Rather, it's somebody who is driven to create more pleasures in their life. So your work, your employment might be such as, it's a means to an end, a way to make money, because Venus represents money. And so it's a way to make money so that you can enjoy your life, so that you can have a beautiful, relaxing holiday at the beach, or, you can buy that latest outfit or pair of shoes, or have that lovely dinner out at your favorite restaurant. Working and your working life is, unless there are other factors in the chart, we must always keep that in mind, but with this signature, generally it is about working to create money and being willing to make an effort and in life in order to make money, to enjoy and indulge in your five senses. So that's another signature that we see here. It makes you quite good with money actually as well. You'll have a real eye for a bargain, and you will enjoy shopping and getting good value for money as well. So you'll be good at handling your money, generally speaking, and you will be in life supported and surrounded by people who are loving, particularly women. As I said in the beginning of this little section, having good friendships is going to be very important to you, and you'll attract men and women as friends, but it's also going to be very important for you to be surrounded by supportive people, and you will be, because of this capacity to draw in good friends, and that will be another indicator of this in your life, this beautiful combination. But not everything is as happy, happy, joy, joy as we might think it would be with the moon and Venus together in the chart. Because in Vedic astrology, because Venus and the moon are actually in astrology not considered to be friends. So the moon and Venus don't really get along all that well. And this is because, as I mentioned earlier, Venus rules the earth sign Taurus and the intellectual air sign Venus. It's about logic and it's about material life. And the moon represents a water sign, which is emotions. So it's actually, the combination is a little bit challenging, and I'll get to why in a minute. But let's have a look at some of the signatures that are more negative that might pop up with this combination in your life. It can be because of the sensitivity of this and the compassion and the need for beauty surrounding them and in their life and in their relationships, the need for kindness and compassion. It can be a signature that tells us you will be easily hurt, especially if you're in an argumentative style relationship where there's a lot of fighting. It will really wound your soul because of this sensitivity. And you just want everything to be lovely. You just want everything to be beautiful and everyone to get along and be happy. And an argy-bargy in life can really rock your boat. There's a sensitivity to negative energy. It's quite strong, actually. Also a sensitivity to harshness, both in other people and their character. So, if someone's really nasty and vindictive and horrible, you'll be just like, recoil. You won't want to hang out with people like that at all. But so there's this sensitivity to that and a pulling away from that, but also ugliness in the world. One of the reasons my qualifications, I have a master's degree in town planning, and one of the reasons I became a town planner was because probably my moon in Libra would look around and see ugly houses, ugly developments, ugly tilt-up concrete buildings being, popping up everywhere and destroying the energy of a town or a community, and it was foul. And I thought, I want to do something to help this. I want to make beautiful places. I want to leave the world a more beautiful place because I've been here. So I'll become a town planner and try and make sure that developments are beautiful. And lo and behold, I found out that's not how it works. It's the person with the most money who gets to do what they like. Very unjust, but don't let me get started on that bandwagon. But it was the need and the desire for beauty that pushed me or drew me into that as a career. I've also flipped a lot of houses and gardens in my life, and that is something that brings me a lot of happiness by creating joy. Where something is ugly and there's this harshness, I'm very sensitive to that. I can't stand ugliness in the world and in people. But when I see this, like when I would buy a house and flip it, make it an ugly old 1970s chocolate brick thing look like, beauty. Not an easy thing to do, but that would bring me a lot of joy to make ugliness into beauty. And when you have Venus and Moon conjunct, or as in my case, the Moon in a Venusian sign, then this is something that you can use as a tool, like I did, to try and make the world a better place. Bravo. Or you can find that it's just too much for you and you can't stand it, and it really impacts and hurts you to see ugliness in people and in places. And and this can also play out into, you might be very sensitive about pollution and about the destruction of the environment, because Taurus, which is a Venusian ruled sign, is all about the environment and nature. And so you might have a real sensitivity to the destruction that's happening in the environment, in nature, and about pollution, and you might be very passionate and very moved by that, and use that for good. I would encourage you, if you feel that way, use it for good in the world, instead of sort of lamenting and being upset about it and hurt by it. Put your energy into doing something about it and helping where you can to alleviate those things. Anyhow, that's a whole other topic. But like I said, there is this reaction to ugliness, reaction to harshness, reaction to lack of beauty that is present for people who carry this signature. Now, the other difficult things with this energy are that sometimes we might struggle to be motivated in life. And I kind of touched on this in the section about the good qualities of Venus Moon. But in this case, it is the lack of motivation to actually achieve something of significance in life, simply because our needs are to enjoy life. The moon is our needs, and Venus is enjoyment and pleasure and beauty. So we have this need to just enjoy life and to indulge in beauty and to have lots of love in our lives. These things take greater priority for you as a moon Venus person than actually striving to make a difference in the world or have some sort of career success or notoriety. You're much more concerned with just, enjoying and having fun and pleasure and happiness. And not that there's anything wrong with those things at all, but it can give you an element of lack of motivation to progress or to achieve, make you a bit lazy. Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, is a bit of a lazy sign. Sometimes Leo is as well, but I just don't want to make you Taurus people feel bad thinking that you're lazy. Leo is a bit like that as well. So and probably it's not so much that they're lazy. It's probably more that, like I've just described, they would rather be enjoying themselves. They would rather be having pleasure and beauty and love in their life than busting their gut working, a 50-hour week. Fair enough. So the other difficult challenges with this placement is that it can, and not for everybody, but it can indicate a tendency towards vanity and towards conceit, because you're so preoccupied with beauty and you're so preoccupied with external aesthetics and pleasure as a part of who you are, that's your focus, and you neglect the soul, you neglect the mind. Shouldn't be the case, because Venus rules that logical sign of Libra, which is a very intelligent sign, but the lower manifestations of this combination can be that you'll be so focused on externals that you neglect the inner work that needs to happen. Although I'm sure most people watching this video would not be manifesting that, or else they wouldn't be watching this video. There's a tendency to try and avoid menial tasks wherever possible. So, you might be in a relationship with somebody who's got this signature, male or female, and, they're going to sit on, just say you're married to a guy and he'd rather sit on the couch than take the garbage out at night. Sit on the couch and watch telly, and you're doing all those menial tasks. So that can be one of the more negative displays of this combo. You can also, in situations of poverty or disease or lack, these are very situations we would ascribe to the 6th house or the sign of Virgo, and this is why Venus is debilitated in Virgo. In those situations of inequality and imbalance, and remember, Venus rules Libra, the sign of balance. So anything that is imbalanced, out of balance, unequal, poverty, disease, illness, lack of education, and lack of other, general things that we would have to enjoy life. These, being in situations where that is the case, can make you feel physically sick if you have this Moon-Venus signature. Now, because Venus rules Libra, the best way to handle these situations where you're feeling ill, physically ill by being in really imbalanced circumstances, the best way to handle it is to try to bring balance back, because remember, Libra is the sign of balance ruled by Venus. So if you are a Moon-Venus person and you find yourself in some sort of imbalanced environment, maybe it's nature, maybe it's everything's polluted and you're in a street that's just filled with garbage or something, the best way to handle it is not to let it make you ill to be in that circumstance, to actually undertake measures to change things and to bring balance back. That's the best higher manifestation, the best way to deal with situations of poverty, illness, disease, detriment in the environment, and anything like that is out of balance, that should be more leveled up. Now, as I said in the beginning of this section on the more negative qualities of this combo, the Moon and Venus are actually enemies in astrology. And so there is this need, the Moon is needs, and there is a need with these people for relationship. But they tend not to use rationality and logic and a groundedness in relationship. It's all about the feelings in relationship. It's all about what their emotions need. So relationships are created from an emotional place, from a feeling base, rather than, we like to use our mind as well as our emotions and to be a bit realistic about relationships. That can fly out the window because the emotions take over in a Venus moon person. They don't use their rationality. They don't use their logic in relationships, which can be very harmful if all you're living by in a relationship is the emotional nature that, the feelings that you have. I mean, as human beings, we can be very up and down with our feelings, dependent on circumstances of our life, but also dependent on the energies of the planets and how they're impacting us. And so if all we base our happiness on in relationship is emotions, we're going to have a pretty hectic ride. So there's a real need for people with Moon Venus to actually practice flexing the muscle, get strong with it, of logic and rationality in relationships. So using the head rather than the heart all the time. This is actually a remedy that you can employ. Stop for a minute instead of reacting emotionally to situations in a relationship. Think about, detach and think, what is actually going on here? What is the real issue in this situation? And act with a rational mind rather than a dramatic emotional response. And that will help. But this is why it can be almost a painful signature for relationships, because there's just too much emotion happening, or the relationship is too dependent on emotion rather than being more balanced with rationality and logic. It's just to be sensitive and needy, overly sensitive and overly needy in relationships. So the older you get, the less this is going to be an influence and have impact in relationships, because you'll gain wisdom and you'll gain knowledge, and that just happens as we get older with regard to relationships. We're not so needy the older we get. We're not so dependent on another person making us happy in relationship as we get older. We learn to be a bit more self-sufficient that way, and so then that can sort of lessen as you get older. Now, if you're a man with this placement, Venus represents the kind of women that you will like to date, and the moon represents the kind of women that you'll be interested in committing to. So it's an interesting one if you're a man to have this together in your chart, because essentially it's saying that the women you date are going to generally be the same kinds of women that you will end up wanting to marry or wanting to commit to or live with. So that can be really good. That can be a bonus. You're not going to sort of date the wild woman, dancing on a tabletop in the local bar and marrying, the quiet mouse from the library. You will have more of a same energy in the person that you're wanting to both date and get together with permanently. The thing to watch out for, though, if you have this in your chart and you're a man, is that you may tend to project these negative qualities. They might not manifest in you and your life. So the neediness, the over-emotionalism in relationships, the struggle to be motivated and to actually make an effort, the desire to avoid menial tasks in life. This may not display in your life if you're a man, but you might project it out to the women that you end up dating. They might be all about pleasure and fun and joy, and not very mutually helpful in creating resources in life and achieving in life. They might be very needy. They might be very overly sensitive in relationships. And this might cause you a lot of annoyance, So be really careful about projecting these Venus moon qualities onto the women that you date. Act with awareness about what you're doing, and really perhaps look out for these more negative energies of Venus moon manifesting in someone, so you'll know, okay, I'm projecting now. You can make some informed decisions about whether you're going to proceed or not, and whether you can handle it or not. You'll know where it's coming from, and knowledge is powerful. The other thing to note, if you are a man with this signature, is that your partners might tend to mother you a bit, because Venus is our lover, when we're in a man's chart. But moon is the mother. So your lovers might tend to be very motherly towards you, fussing about, you and being, I don't know if you saw, it just sprung into my mind, but the film with Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson, and How to Lose a Man in however many days, I think was the title. I can't quite recall, but she was being like overly motherly to him and trying to turn him off by being overly motherly. And it's probably a really good indicator of the negative side of Venus moon in a man's chart if you're with a woman who is overly motherly and fussing around you and acting like she's your mum. It's not really going to be a healthy relationship if that's the dynamic that you've got. So watch out for that if you are a man. So that's all the negative things if you want to call them that, in a Venus moon conjunction in the chart for men and women. What are the remedies? How do we fix things, or how do we direct the energy to better things if we're struggling with motivation? To succeed in life. If we find that we're constantly needy in relationships, or we're attracting needy women, what are some of the remedies? Well, the solution in astrology is always to direct our attention to the higher vibration of what these things represent. And by doing this, we are actually having some free will and control over how our lives work, and allowing things to be at the top level and get the best results out of what our chart represents, rather than being at the whim of, wherever our thoughts lead us. We can actually take some mental control and take some action about how we deal with the difficult things in our chart. So for you guys, Moon, Venus people, I would get involved in Venusian activities. If you find yourself feeling needy, you're in a relationship and you're like, I just don't know if he loves me, and I just want him to tell him that he loves me, and you just got this needy dialogue running in your head. Okay, get out there and do some gardening. Go and indulge in nature, or go for a walk in nature. Direct your energy to other Venusian things. Go and see, beautiful vistas, and go for a drive in the country, or go to the coffee shop and have a lovely piece of cake or something, or whatever indulgence of the senses really does it for you. Maybe you might go and have your nails done at a nail salon, or go to a day spa. Go and do some sort of beauty edifying activity, something that makes you feel good about yourself, something that that brings more beauty into your life or your world. Go to a plant nursery and buy a new plant, or like I said, spend time in the garden, spend time beautifying yourself. Go and do something pleasurable, go and view something pleasurable. Perhaps it's also, Venus is highly creative, so it's a really good opportunity if you're feeling the draw to sort of the negative side, the dark side, then you can actually start doing something creative, such as, for me, Venus in Libra, I love to sew. And I find when I'm feeling overwhelmed in life, certainly around the time when 10 years ago, when I went through a very dark time as my marriage ended, all I would do was sew. I sewed and sewed and sewed and sewed and made so many dresses, because it was my source of stability and my source of escape to go to that Venusian place of creation and making something beautiful like a velvet dress. So that was my go-to. And indeed, when you are feeling low and when things are tough, it is a healthy thing to indulge in creativity. Now, that could be painting, it could be making music, playing the piano, singing. Venus is connected to the voice, so doing some singing in a band, or joining some sort of musical group or something. Sewing, like I said, creating something that's beautiful. Again, gardening comes back up here. Also, having a bit of indulgence. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to go and spend $50,000 in one weekend having a good time. No. When I was I'll go back to when I was in my dark time. One of the therapies for this kind of energy that I would employ would be simply to go to my local coffee shop. I was a single mum, didn't have a lot of money, but I would just sit there with a book and a cup of coffee, and that would be my indulgence. Venus is quite a social planet, so I was in a social environment. I was indulging in a pleasurable activity. having a cup of coffee, which I really enjoy. It's, you know, hot and warm on a cold winter's day or something. So doing something pleasurable. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it is simply directing your energy to something that is of a higher nature than being all poor me and he doesn't love me and drama, emotional whatever in relationships, or the other negative energies that I spoke of. So I mean, how wonderful for Venus moon people that your remedy is such a joy and such a delight. Go and have fun, go and have pleasure, go and enjoy your life, go shopping. Woohoo, lucky you guys. Also, a remedy is hanging out with women. Another reason why I like to hang out in the coffee shop, sipping tea or coffee, because it was to be able to connect with other women, that's a place women like to hang out. Like, you go down the street in the town that I live in, and just everybody's out having coffee together on a beautiful spring day, like it is today when I'm recording this. So connecting with women, sharing, talking. Venus rules the sign of Libra, which is one of the signs for people who love to talk. Hello. So these kinds of energies, going and talking with women, sharing your heart, unburdening your soul, connecting with women, because this, as I said in the beginning, this is a very kind, caring, compassionate signature, and you will have lots of friends to be able to do this with, and it's actually a remedial opportunity for you to go and be with other women and have a good chat and hang out with friends. This is healthy. So all these things are remedies to the sort of more negative components of Venus. So that is what it means to have Venus conjunct with Moon in your chart. It actually is quite lovely, isn't it? And certainly, even with the negative energies, if you've got the opportunity to go and indulge in those beautiful remedies, well, hey, there's nothing bad about that. So thank you very much for joining me as we explored this energy in the chart. I hope it's given you lots of insights, and do join me for the next video in this series of Moon conjunct with planets.